They're feeling like they've been talked at their entire life. They've been programmed by everyone around them because whether it's a teacher, whether it's a parent, whether it's some YouTuber, whoever it is, right? They've been talked at, but they haven't spent enough, youth haven't spent enough time, I think, understanding, okay, this is what I actually want. This is what I actually feel.
Welcome to the Generation Youth Podcast. I'm your host, James McLamb. As always, I'm back again. And recently, through, the bestsellers community, is that where we connected? The bestsellers community,
That's
which
right.
is a community of influencers, authors, people who want to make a positive difference in the world. Our next guest and I connected through Alex and Will, who started that conversation and hit it off really well. And I wanted to have him as a guest, and I wanted him to join us today. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Nice to have me on. And I love being here. I want to talk more on just to the youth, to young adults. And I know you're doing some amazing things, James. So I'm really just glad to be on here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. Our audience always wants to hear from my guest a little bit more about them. They get tired of James talking. They would love to hear from you. So if you wouldn't mind, take a few minutes and introduce yourself to the Generation Youth community.
Yeah. What's up, Generation Youth? I'm Sai Vasam, and I love working with youth and young adults. And I really want to help youth and young adults become effective self-investors is what
Mm.
I call it. And so, we can dive deeper into that, but it's and the process of investing in yourself in some way for personal growth. So I was, came from a very traditional background, get good grades, go to a good college, get a good job, all the good things in life, right? All the good things and nice things in life. And those have value for sure.
Hmm.
And I realized for myself that I was working at a good job, first job out of college as a tech consultant, and left that about a year in just because I wanted something else. Then experienced marketing at a startup for a few years, and that was amazing. That brought me out to the Southeast. And then I worked as a coach, and working as a coach, life and career coach for young adults. Started on the side, went full time, kind of back and forth with entrepreneurship and how much space and energy that takes up for me. I was a school teacher for the past school year in Kansas City, and so have this coaching background and now blended with a little bit of this education experience in the classroom. And along the way, I published my first book, which is called Self Investor, like I mentioned. And now I'm really jumping full into entrepreneurship
Hmm.
and into what that could mean and living this very nomadic, entrepreneurial, I call it long-term multitasking background and lifestyle. It's kind of like a never-ending weekend. And so Monday is the same as Saturday is the same as Wednesday, or and they're all different.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me and the things that I've been working on and kind of what got me here to this point right here. And I love connecting and really having deep conversations with people who have a mission. And
Mm.
it's amazing when those missions are aligned in some way. And I'm glad to be here.
Well, let's back up to what you said right at the beginning of your interaction when you said you love working with youth and young people to help them develop as self investors. Now, let's unpack that. Where did that passion come from? I know there's always a story on how we get to finding that passion, finding our purpose in life. So, where did that come from for you? What problem did you see out there that you said, hey, I have been blessed with these experiences, talents, and skills? I can provide value to people who are encountering that problem. Where did this come from?
Yeah. So initially came from when I started coaching
Hmm.
20 somethings during this quarter life crisis time period. And I realized it was the person that I was a few years previous and someone who was just kind of starting out. And what I realized is I felt overwhelmed
Yeah.
with a lot of resources out there, which were about personal growth and self growth and like this growth mindset, right? All these things that, these words that are thrown around, what does that actually mean? And but then when there's a podcast, when there's a course, when there's a newsletter, when there's a YouTube video, when there's social media, when there's a book, when there's a coach you can work with, a therapist you can work with, like a conference you can go to, right? All these things that are out there that everyone when they create a business, when they create a service or a product, they have these good intentions, right? But as you as a consumer, you as a person who is actually wanting to develop
Mm.
and you're setting that intention where there's not enough material, there's not enough guidance on how do you actually navigate all that? And that's one of the things I realized. It's like I really want to help the person who is at the beginning of their journey. And I would consider myself as a millennial. I'm like right on the border between millennial and Gen Z. So I feel like I can connect a little bit with both
So
generations.
how old are you?
And
20.
I'm 29.
Yeah, I was gonna say
29. So
28, 29. If you said you're on the cusp. So I was gonna see if you agreed with that
yeah.
number. So
Yeah, and so I feel like I can relate to Gen Z because I feel like I can be like an older brother to them. So that's a little bit of that mindset when it comes to coaching. But I realize, self-investing is the process of investing in others to invest in yourself.
mm,
And it seems very basic, but actually we kind of spend a lot of time like journaling, or we kind of spend a lot of time working out, or maybe consuming the course, but there's not as much time that we spend maybe interacting with one another. I think we're losing that, or it's maybe being modified as generations, younger generations now of it's more parasocial relationships. And so like I wanted to provide something that people can easily read, goes through my story of starting right after college, so my first day at work, and goes up until, to about a year ago, the end of 2024. And so that's kind of my story that I share. And along the way, I share, hey, these are the lessons, not just the lessons learned and the insights that I've gained, but hey, here's how to think about when you're putting money, time, and energy into something. This is how you can actually grow rather than spending tens of thousands of dollars and not getting anything out of it.
I wholeheartedly agree. We've tried to help folks to navigate that too, spending all that money and then being coming to the end of that process and not being any further down the line than they are. Matter of fact, the very first coaching certification class that we did years ago, there was a couple that at the time they was about the same age as you are, who had the same passion that you did, to work with the same demographic, because they were looking at their peers who were in their late 20s that for 5 to 7 years had been floundering. They had come out of college and they still had no clue. So they said, we want to hit that 22, 23-year old to try to help them realize that. And I love what you said, invest in others to invest in yourself, because it reminded me of the famous Zig Ziglar quote. You familiar with Zig Ziglar? Where his
Yep.
most famous quote is, you could have everything in life you want if you would just help enough other people get what they want. And that's a whole attitude of service. And that seems to be what you're saying here. So, how do you help a young person unpack that when in reality, all they're thinking about at this time is what's in it for me? That's all they want to know is what's in it for me, what's in it for me. And you're trying to flip their script, friend, and trying to get them to think differently. How are you doing that? And is it successful? And how are you doing this?
Yeah, for sure. One thing is just that human to human connection
Mm,
that is not surface level. And so I want to take it as deep as I can with this person, getting to the root cause of whatever they may be feeling, whatever they may be thinking, and however they may be acting. And so, the James Clear in Atomic Habits, he talks about,
great
the
book.
three rings, yeah, of the outermost is your results or outcomes, the next level is your actions, and then the most inner level is your identity. And I realized that we focus a little bit too much on results. And so, like young people, I would say, it's like, hey, like, what's in it for me, right? Like that question that you just said, it's like, what are the results for me? What is my like return on investment
Hmm.
even? Or like what am I going to get out of it today? Right. In this convenience mindset that we have of like, hey, I can swipe, I can one click order on Amazon, right? And it's at my doorstep within two
Yeah.
hours or, maximum 2 days. Right. It's like this age of ultra convenience. It's like, okay, how do you slow down a little bit and ask these questions that will actually get them to the root cause, right? So actually understanding the past. So when I coach people, it's a little bit of the therapist mindset of, hey, like I want to understand, I want to validate, I want to hear you, no judgment, right? There's that part of it. Then there's another hat, which is the consulting mindset, which, I can have experience with, which is, okay, here's a framework, here's a specific thing. I've assessed the problem, I've assessed the root cause. Now it's like, okay, what can we do with that root cause?
Hmm.
Right? Here's this one specific action you can take, or here's this one specific prompt you can journal about. Here's this one person you should speak to. And then, okay, now you have the action plan, simple one step, two step, three step, however long it is. and I'm your coach. I'm gonna blow the whistle. I'm gonna make you do drill, but hold you accountable. But at the end, I'm gonna like give you a hug, give you a high five, right? So like
Mhm.
also your biggest cheerleader. Right. So I think, and I'll say this, especially for men and young males, young teen males, etc. I think it's really important for us to have good men role models in our lives to show that, hey, this is what a healthy emotional intelligence looks like. Not just, hey, I'm gonna go to the gym and like work out, right? But it's, hey, we need to not just learn things with our mind, but we need to be able to feel our emotions
Mhm.
with other people and especially other men and model that for other males. And so I'm really big and continue to grow on how can I create a space within this coaching container or within maybe a community that I have of space where people can express themselves fully and speak from the heart without any fear or judgment from others. Right. And that takes some time. But I mean, that's kind of the process of
Mhm.
like getting down to the root cause and really addressing it and knowing that there's multiple root causes. Right. Sometimes I think there's a false pretense that we have like of, hey, this is the one root cause of things. I think it's just like a root, right, in a tree. There's going to be many roots at the actual bottom of it, right? So one thing that you think is the only root cause, like, cool, let's work on that. But then also there's this thing that also, when you combine it, it creates this action in your life or this pattern or this tendency. So I help young people unpack, like, oh wow, I'm just bringing awareness by asking questions to young people like, of things that they've never brought awareness to. And when they've brought awareness, that's the first step, right? And then you can actually work on it, improve it, etc. But none of that happens if you don't have awareness of it in the first place.
As we're talking here, I'm hoping our listeners are going, I love what he's saying, but how do I know if the people in my life need this help? So, who are you targeting? Who is this struggling person? What do they look like? What's some of the symptoms that, hey, they're stuck and they're not investing? Because what you're teaching is, it should be an obvious concept. Hey, you want to grow in this, but it's something that it seems is missing in most of society today. So, who is this person that would benefit from this kind of training? Who you looking to serve?
Yeah, it's the most ideal audience
Hmm.
is the recent college grad who is just at the beginning of like this new, it's like the world is their oyster, like new possibilities. I just graduated, I'm at the peak and seemingly the peak at that time. And then it's like, but then you're just kind of you're adjusting to so many new things. I mean, you in this economy, like maybe we're, not even finding a job, right? It's like
Right.
first off finding a job if you're in one, great. How do you actually do well in it, right? So like that first few months, first year or two, from a career standpoint, first year or two from maybe you've never been in a relationship, right? So there's, how does a relationship fit into your life, right? And not just relationship like romantically, but just social life in general. When you're on a college campus and all your social circles are either in a bubble there or in a bubble on social media,
That is
then
a very good analysis. That is very good. That is in
like
the bubble. Yeah.
yeah, and so how do you branch off out of that and be like, how do I make friends in the real world? Just go into a
Hmm.
coffee shop and being able to talk to someone with I think there's so much social anxiety in young
Yeah.
people these days, right? And there's a lot of root causes, but that's one of the things that I help people with of like, hey, like I mean, I was working like initially with we had our first call recently with a client and he experiences a lot of social anxiety up until now and we met up initially at a coffee shop and I had a couple of my copies of my book on me and the coffee shop was closing and on our way out I was like, hey, I don't want to just talk about this, like I want to model this. So we he came with me. There were two gentlemen who were actually starting and reading, they were starting a small like Bible study group and they're like coworkers at some gas station convenience store in
That's
that
nice.
area and I just walked up to them, introduced myself, like, hey, you guys are reading. You guys, look pretty young, high school, college, a little after, however old. And it's like, hey, like I have these couple of books that I wanted to share with you. And you guys are reading, you guys kind of fit the demographic, etc. What are your names? Et cetera, et cetera. So, but the person I'm working with, he saw that in real life. And it wasn't, on a screen that he didn't know. It was, some random person doing that and telling you through a screen to do that, but he actually experienced it. I introduced him, but like he didn't have to say anything. But like that level of experiential
Yeah.
learning and not just, "Hey, I'm just gonna talk at you. I'm just gonna tell you what to do," because I think that's one of the big things that someone who is in this space is feeling. They're feeling like they've been talked at their entire life. They've been programmed by everyone around them because whether it's a teacher, whether it's a parent, whether it's some YouTuber, whoever it is, right? They've been talked at, but they haven't spent enough, youth haven't spent enough time, I think, understanding, okay, this is what I actually want. This is what I actually feel. And so, someone who's, when you're thrust into this new world, right? The real world, quote unquote, at 22, 23, then you're like, what do I do? Like wasn't taught all this stuff. And so how do I actually grow? Like I can't just read this in the textbook and learn how to, be caring in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like you have to actually experience it, right?
And I think there's so many things as they're growing up, as the young people's growing up, that they're kept from parents because of parents being almost too gentle and wanting to protect their child and not letting them experience things and experience life as going. And what you said about them being anxious about the future, the two common buzzwords that we hear about mental health with people that are this target age are anxiety and depression. And anxiety is just fear of the future, fear of what could happen, fear of what might not happen, all those types of fears. And depression is just really regret of the past. This is, I did not get this done. I did not do this. I did not participate in that. I'm not a part of this. And this that whole thing that you're trying to get them is that you got to stay in the middle. You got to live in the middle and plan for the future and accept the past. And I love that aspect of it because you talked about it being a recent college grad. I would also say too that what you would be effective is that college student who may be in the middle of their experience and they're going, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this at all? I know a young man who went to college, extremely smart, did really well his first semester. Second semester, you could just tell he was not, his second year, he was just not focused and said, I'm going to take some
Mhm.
time off. And now is just kind of trying to figure out, where am I at? How do I do this stuff? So I think it'd be extremely effective there.
Yeah, so ideal is the person who's starting off, right? The person
Yep.
who is like who has seen the social media, who has followed all these people, who've maybe dabbled in a couple of books, who's listened to all the podcasts, but they still feel like, okay, like I'm at square one, right? I feel more overwhelmed. I feel more overburdened with all the stuff that I've tried and hasn't worked. Or, right, it's like, hey, I'm green, I'm new to this entire space. Like I don't know what I don't know yet. And so, like, I want to do this the right way from the beginning. So then, yeah, like you're saying, like the college student who is like figuring things out
Yeah.
and seeing the writing on the wall for them for, in a good way. Hey, like, hey, this maybe not the path for me, right? Or, so it could also be a high school student who's maybe aware of all these things for themselves and society as well. So I think that is a big thing too.
I'm hearing the audience right now. They're like, okay, you guys are talking all this, positive self image, the self help guru stuff, and none of that works. You've been working with youth, you've been working with young people, you've been working with those in the trenches. What stories do you have of transformation? Obviously, we don't want names, but what stories do you have of, hey, they were here and now they're here, and they went through that process? What could you share with the audience that proves to them that this kind of process can be impactful if they have somebody in their life who is in that messy middle or stuck in that?
Yeah. So one person that comes to mind, he's actually my first client. And
Hmm.
so he was in a nice job and he was looking to eventually get out of it. He kind of chose his major just because based off the money and the salary that it would provide at the end of the major and into the first few jobs. And he really, and he kind of did it begrudgingly. But then outside of that, so like not only was he in a job that paid well, but he didn't like. He had this like he wanted to be more social. He wanted to have more friends. And so he moved across the country from college to, I guess, back home. But he kind of had to make a new friend group, and he just felt a little bit lonely, right? And I think that's one of the big things that is kind of in this overlap of anxiety and depression,
Yeah.
of loneliness as well. And so he definitely was feeling that. And we, went through this coaching process and understood that there's lots of underlying feelings that we don't talk about that happen in our childhood, that happen as teenagers and adolescents, that happen as young adults that are mushed together. And these are the stories that we form, stories about judgment, right? Hey, we're judging our parents, we're judging ourselves, we're too harsh on ourselves. And so I don't want to put myself out there, right? And like, what will people think of me, right? What will my status be when, if I leave this job,
Yeah.
right? How will I be financially if I leave this job? How will, if I invite people and people say no, how will I don't want to, I'm, fear of rejection there, right? And so he went from, I would say, having very few friends to by the end of the coaching engagement over a few months, 3, 4 months, he was hosting parties at his house and like get-togethers and like kind of life of the party. And so, and it's since then it's been cool to see his transformation as well because he's much more out there, social media, just socially in general, and there's a more passion and life force from which he lives every day. And so like I can see that and I think that exudes across the screen, definitely in person. And so when you figure out at least one aspect of your life, whether it's that relationships and friendships piece, whether it's the career, finances, one aspect of it, it kind of gives you confidence that you can do all these other things in the other areas of your life. And so I think one of the other overwhelm is like, "Oh, I got to figure out my career. I got to figure out my personal finance. I got to figure out my social life. I got to figure out my health. And then
Mhm.
I got to personal grow and like I got to take care of my family, like all these things, right? But if we just take a step back, let's focus on one thing. Let's focus on the social life. This is the most crippling thing in your life right now. And he was able to do that. Lots of journaling, lots of in-depth conversations, some tears, right? I was kind of taught at a young age that tears were a bad thing, crying was a bad thing, men don't cry. And I've gotten rid of that story. I've gotten rid of that story. He had too. And so he's now able to see the value in the social life and how that can help from his, professional world as well at the, he switched jobs, is in a place that he likes more, has a much more invigorating social life. And, I'm proud to, call him my friend now too.
So I'm hearing that this young man, he improved in really three major areas of his life, maybe four. Yeah, I'm gonna say four. One would be his mindset. He went from maybe a fixed mindset of this is the way life is to the possibility. You helped him see the possibilities, helped him see the potential that he had. Two, it sounds like his self-image was improved. He began to believe in himself more. Hey, I am a person of value. I am a person of worth, despite what may have occurred back over here behind me. I am. Then there's relationship skills, which you alluded to strongly on that, and finding purpose and setting goals to align with that purpose too. Which when that happens, then the financial and all that pieces kind of do. So you helped them in four major areas, and I'll repeat those four areas because I know some of our audience will remember. Oh, those are the four areas that Generation Youth teaches that we should coach about. So I'm just kind of pointing out there that we did not set this up beforehand. This is just what it is, guys. Great minds understand these are the issues. We got to dive into them. See, what I love that you're doing is you're tackling those root issues of self image, mindset, relationships, goals, purpose, not the surface things of, oh, you don't have your finances straight. Oh, you don't have your resume set up, which is so much you see people who offer coaching services, they want to help the symptom and not the problem. You hear that in medicine all the time. A lot of doctors are going to give you medicine to help the symptoms, but you need to find a doctor that's going to help you find the root of the problem. That's what your coaching is going for. And I love that. I love that you have seen. I can't just tack the top. I've got to hit the bottom. I love that. And they respond to it too, right?
For sure, because they feel like, "Oh, crap, like, I gotta like, this is your eyes are open to this, like,
Hmm.
this has been happening my entire life. I've been having this negative self-talk on this one specific phrase that I've been saying to myself of, "I don't want to receive love," or, "I am not enough. I don't deserve this." Alright, whatever you said as a child that was ingrained in you. You didn't have the mental capacity when you're 6 years old to, like, fully understand it, right? So you just kinda made this quick association, and then now you've built your entire worldview, the glasses that you see the world through are through those lenses, through the lens of, "I am not enough.
Hmm.
I don't deserve love. I don't deserve this," etcetera. And that's you know? So I'm just showing people, "Hey, like, take a step back, see that you have those glasses on, because when you're too close to it, you can't even see that you have the glasses on. You gotta take a step back, zoom out a little bit, and it's like, 'Oh, wow, these are interesting glasses. How did they get here?'" And being curious about, and asking questions in a non-judgmental way to be like, "Hey, what happened here? Like, how did this happen? How does that make me feel?" Right? And those questions be like, just bring overall total awareness to those glasses that you have on. And then at that point, once you've actually integrated and accepted those pieces of you, that's when we move on to the forward looking, hey, like this is the action, this is the thing. Because if you skip to the action piece, you're it's kind of, putting lipstick on a pig, right? It's just kind of it's surface
Right.
level. You're not addressing the root cause. And so that's why I'm very like it's a very careful balance of past, present, and future.
How long's the process, or is it vary from client to client?
Yeah, we start off at 3 months
Okay, so
initially just
about
to get that
is that
going.
like a 10, 12 sessions or something? Do you do it weekly,
Yeah, once
bi-weekly?
a week.
Once a week, so it's about
Once a
10 to
week.
12 depending on the time of the year it is. That's perfect time. That's perfect timing. That
Yeah.
works. That works. That's the kind of framework that they work and stuff. How can our audience learn more about what you do and how they can connect with you?
Yeah. So I have my website, which you have at the bottom here. It's amazing. So saivasam.com, first and last name.com. A quick side note, if you ever get a chance to get your first name, last name.com and an email, do it right away. There's only one opportunity. So saivasam.com. I'm on LinkedIn. That's the platform that I'm most active on. I do have Instagram and TikTok too that I've posted short form stuff so young people can check out as well. And on Amazon, I have my book, Self Investor, right here. So first book to read on a personal growth journey. The social media is a good way as like an entry point. The book it's like if you're serious about taking a step forward and not just consuming content, you actually want to consume with action, then this book is the other entry point for you, or the next step. And that really gets into this my story, the frameworks to actually understand, hey, this is how I should invest. Maybe $0. Maybe $0 is the perfect investment size for you, right? But it's a community of people, right? Who knows? So, and then on my website, I have ways to book a call, email me, etc. So, website, LinkedIn, and the book on Amazon are the best ways to consume, not just consume my content, but get to know me and maybe even start building a relationship with me.
I wish we'd hit I thought of this question earlier, but I'm just thinking too, what if you're a parent or a concerned adult? What one tip would you give them to help that person that's stuck to realize they need coaching? Because that is the biggest problem that I see is, those of us who are in this field, we can look at someone real quickly and say, that person needs some coaching. That person needs someone to walk alongside them to help them. But when you're in it, you don't see that. You think, all right, yeah, I can handle this, or I can go to my friend and get advice. Yeah, let's go to somebody who's in the middle. That's like, that's like you're stuck in a hole and you want to get out of the hole, and the person you turn to is the person that's in the hole with you and say, you got any ideas about how to get out of here? And it's like if they knew how to get out of there, they wouldn't be in the hole. So and there's
Right.
people on the top of the hole that are willing to help. So how do we help that young person? How does an adult, a parent, help that young person come to that realization? Hey, I need some help.
I think one thing is, especially if it's a parent that has done a lot of things for that child
Hmm.
growing up, that this is not their problem to solve. That you may have solved other problems before for your kid when they're 6 years old, when they're 10 years old, when they're 15 years old. But when they're 17, 18, 20, 22, 23, understanding that, hey, like, yes, my son, my daughter needs help, and I may not be the person for that because at those crucial ages, there's a tendency to revolt, to rebel, right? From teenagers, from young adults. It's like, hey, I don't want to listen to my parents anymore. Like I've
Hmm.
I've had enough of that. Right? So, like, understanding, hey, like, that's kind of a different parenting mindset from 0 to call it, 10, 11 to 11 to 18, and maybe even, as an adult, it's a different parenting style. So, I think understanding, hey, this is what parenting style do I actually want as my child is becoming an adult here? and that realization, and then you can seek out me, someone else who maybe resonates more with your kid. But just like that first understanding that, okay, because again, going back to these scripts that we've had, right? A script by the parent might be, oh, they're in trouble. I need to solve this,
Yes.
right? Versus like, what if, and just asking a question, what if you replace that script with who else can help? What if I allowed them to fail? What if I reached out? What if I encouraged him or her, but did not push it,
Mm.
right? And so just flipping that script from I need to solve it to how can I be a guide and push them in a direction, or just like, hey, like, oh, this is your problem. Okay, perfect. So how are you going to solve it, right? So that ownership goes from the parent, like, hey, this parent, my parent's going to solve all these my problems, to I need to take ownership of this and actually work on myself, or whatever issue that they may be experiencing.
I love that position. I love that mindset of how to approach it with for parents to approach it. That's something that almost parents need coaching through as well, coaching them how to allow their child to grow and allow their child to build up the resilience and perseverance that they need in life going forward. I so appreciate this conversation. Listen, audience, if you want to know more, you know what to do. You can go to the show notes and you're going to find all the links for our guest there. If you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill. You just look straight down and you can find all this content in the more section. You can find all that information there. And I know if you've stuck with us for, over 35 minutes, you've obviously found some value in our conversation. And if you have, do three things that we would really appreciate. Number one, comment. We want to hear what your thoughts are. Number two, like it. That helps us and it helps us reach more people. But here's the most important thing: someone that you know does not know about this episode, and they need to hear this conversation from this young man. They need to hear what he has to offer. So please share this with that person that you know and encourage them to listen and connect with us. So thank you again for being my guest. I've appreciated our conversation so much.
Thank you, James. It's so awesome being here. So glad I can share some energy with you and with your audience.
And thank you, audience, for sticking with us. And come back again. We'll have another episode coming up on the Generation Youth Podcast.